I'm sorry to be disruptive. We can't hear the speaker on Zoom.
Ah, because I was on mute. Thank you for speaking up. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you very much. You fixed it.
All right, great, thanks. I'm gonna go ahead and start over again since you've been there. So my name is Georgine. I'm the executive director of Our Daily Bread Soup Kitchen, and I've been there for about 9 years. And Our Daily Bread is Cincinnati's largest soup kitchen. And so I was starting by talking a little bit about the difference between soup kitchens and pantries. So pantries exist all over our community, and they are places where people can go pick up food to take home. So it'll be like canned goods, cereal, milk, that kind of thing. Soup kitchens are a little bit different because we do prepared food for people who don't have a safe way to store or cook food for themselves. And so it's primarily people experiencing homelessness. And so we like to make sure that people have their meal hot, nutritious, ready to go right when they walk in our door. We are located down across from Finley Market, and we are currently serving about 500 to 600 people every day. I'd like to talk about our numbers a little bit. Our numbers have gone up dramatically in the past few years. So we kind of talk about pre-COVID times and now post-COVID world. And our numbers have gone up 30% since 2019. And so last year we served nearly 200,000 meals. And that is a massive jump from what we were seeing before. We also have seen an increase in the number of our guests who are experiencing homelessness. So pre-COVID, it was about 50% were low-income people who lived in the neighborhood. And after COVID, it's 30 per that. Sorry, I wasn't planning on standing at a podium. I'm getting like weirdly nervous. Okay. Pre-COVID, it was 50% people experiencing homelessness, 50% people who lived in the neighborhood. And now it's 70% people experiencing homelessness and only 30% of people who live in the neighborhood. And we might chalk that up to like gentrification or people kind of getting pushed out of our neighborhood. But in fact, since our numbers are going up, it's indicating that there's a much higher percentage of people who are experiencing homelessness. And then on top of that, the way they're experiencing homelessness has changed. So prior to COVID, the majority of our guests who were homeless in shelters. And now about 40% of them are unsheltered, which means they're living in camps, they're living in their cars, they're living in places not fit for human habitation. And as such, since they're out in the community and not engaged with the program, they're in need of more food. And so I think that's part of the reason we're seeing our numbers go up. Another reason we think the numbers are going up, there was a definite spike in July last year when Kentucky made it illegal for people to sleep outside and started enforcing those laws. We saw a lot of people from Kentucky starting to come over to Cincinnati, experiencing homelessness, and then coming to us for those meals. One of the things that is interesting about Our Daily Bread is that 100% of our food is rescued or donated. And that has been, we are having our 40th anniversary this year. So we have used rescued donated food for the entirety of our existence. And we did it because we were broke. But lately, it has been this big push for food recovery as part of an environmental effort. And so we've really started leaning into and embracing the rescued food aspect of what we do. So last year it was 221,256 pounds of rescued and donated food, which is about a 22% increase over 2019, which is allowing us to keep up with the need and the increase in guests that we've been seeing. And what I mean, the difference between rescued and donated food. So donated food is food that people purchase and give to us. It's your canned food drives. It's people who go on our Amazon wish list and send us creamer. It's food that is being purchased for that specific purpose. Rescued food is a lot more interesting. Rescued food is food that would otherwise go to the landfill. So it is milk that is nearing its expiration date, and they're not gonna have time to sell it. If they purchase too much, they're not gonna have time to sell it. It is scraps of food that are usable. So after they cut the shape out of the pineapple for edible arrangements, we get the rest of the pineapple. And our volunteers cut off all those little bits and make fruit salad. At Capitol Grill, after they stamp out the T-bone, we get the rest of the steak, and our volunteers cut off those little pieces of meat and save them. So perfectly good food, but food that would otherwise go to the landfill. We also get stuff that is overproduced or over-ordered, or somebody made a mistake. One year, the Flying Pig Marathon accidentally ordered an entire semi-truck of yogurt that they didn't need. They ordered 2 semi-trucks of it. So there was blueberry yogurt throughout our entire community because, you know, you can't mess around with the expiration dates on yogurt. So they're like, let's get this food out. It's if UDF makes a flavor of ice cream that's not as popular as they are planning on it being, we get that surplus. And so it's a really interesting network of restaurants, caterers, retail stores who are giving their excess food directly to people who need that food access. And we're kind of that middle link in the process because we serve such a high volume. We can get milk that's going to expire in 2 days and use it on these vast amounts of meals before it has a chance to go bad. We can take in a bunch of lettuce that has a very quick turnaround date and use it before it goes bad. And because we serve so many people, we're also often serving the food the same day that it comes in. And so the other thing that is, I think, really inspiring about our daily bread is our dependency on volunteers. So we have some volunteers who have been with us the entire 40 years we've been in existence. They are there, they usually have a day of the week. So we have our Monday volunteers, Tuesday volunteers. They are dedicated to a 4-hour shift. So they could do all the prep work. That's why we're able to rescue the food in the first place. They do the service, they do the busing and cleaning up the tables after our guests eat. And so our volunteers are what makes our daily bread happen. And we've seen a 27% increase in volunteers since 2019. So it's like, while our food numbers are going up, also our food donation number or amount and our volunteer numbers are going up, so we're able to meet the need. One big game changer that happened in 2020 was Last Mile Food Rescue started. I don't know if you know about Last Mile Food Rescue, but they're an amazing organization. It's basically like Uber for food rescue. So if you want to volunteer, you download their app, and then they'll be like, there's a pickup at Capitol Grill to go to Our Daily Bread. And a volunteer can be like, yeah, I have time to do that. And they'll click yes, and then they'll go pick it up and deliver it. So it makes this logistics piece, the piece of getting the food to us. Restaurants don't have time to bring us their leftovers. We don't have time to go pick them up. So it takes care of that logistics piece in the middle. And that is why our food donations have been going up, and the quality of our food has really, really increased since Last Mile came on the scene and started providing that service for the whole community. And it's not just us, they also, they take food all over, they take food to all the pantries and lots and lots of different agencies. So they've been an incredible resource, and check them out if you don't know about them already. So I was going to, I'm winding up so I can toss it to Rich, but in 2022, 2023, we took a hard look at our community and we started asking our guests, we do surveys with our guests every year. And one of the things we ask them is, are there times of the week or times of the day when you go hungry? And I think it was something like 80% of them said that they experienced hunger on the weekends. Our Daily Bread is only open Monday through Friday. San Francisco Soup Kitchen is only open Monday through Friday. And so this weekend space was a real gap for our guests. And so we don't have the resources right now to be open on the weekends. So we reached out to our friends at Christ Church Cathedral and the 5,000 Club and asked if there was anything that they could do to help with this need of our neighbors in the Ryan Central Business District. And I'm gonna let Rich take it away and tell you what happened next.
Thank you, Georgine. My name is Rich McDonough. I'm one of the co-leads for the 5,000 Club here at Christ Church Cathedral. 5,000 Club, to give you a little background, is the Food Insecurity Outreach Ministry. It's a lay-led ministry here at the cathedral. It's been, I guess, it was about 20 years ago, 18 to 20 years ago, that the 5,000 Club was established by a group of folks here at the cathedral who saw a need and decided that they were going to attempt to fill that need. I won't go into the names of all the people that were involved, but the co-lead with me is a gentleman by the name of Prince Brown. He's been around since really the beginning. I think we have two members that are original volunteers, Prince Brown and Sigrun Howdy. What the 5,000 Club, the vision of the founders of that organization, or of our organization, they wanted to establish a location that our guests could come to on a Tuesday evening, get a warm, hot meal that could be enjoyed in a safe, secure environment. We do things slightly different than many other soup kitchens. We use tables that are unlike banquet tables. These are tipped rounds where you can put 6 or 8 people. They can see each other across the table. We use linens. We use silverware. We have fresh flowers on the table every week. It's really an atmosphere that our guests can feel safe, secure, and a little bit different than what you see in many other soup kitchens. And that's not a knock against anything or anybody. It's that we want it to be slightly different. And we've carried that tradition on for the entire 20 years that we've been in existence. I've been volunteering at 5,000 Club for about 4 to 5 years now, and about 2.5 years ago, I was asked to step in as one of the co-leads. At that point in time, we began to look around to see who in Greater Cincinnati was doing things like we were doing, but could possibly help us out and partner with us. We were very fortunate in that Georgine and Our Daily Bread were very open to partnering with us, helping us along. We had a lot of questions when Prince and I stepped into our roles. We were both dedicated volunteers who knew how to stand in line and pass out food, but we really didn't know what went on in the background. And there really wasn't anybody at that point in time that could help us out within the 5,000 Club. So we sat down with Georgine and her team at Our Daily Bread. We sat down with folks at a couple of other soup kitchens, St. Anthony's Center. We started talking to folks at the soup just to get some basic understanding of the food insecurity issues in Greater Cincinnati. As Georgine alluded to, during our talks, we found out that there really wasn't anybody doing anything on the weekends. We were dedicated to providing a hot meal on Tuesday evenings. And like Georgine and like Our Daily Bread, we also saw increases and changes in our demographics. Prior to COVID, much like what Georgine was saying, we saw about 30 to 50% what we would call homeless. We saw large numbers of families. We had children every week coming in. After COVID, that demographic changed. Today, we see a much larger, and it's very close to what Georgine said, at 70%. We see a much larger number of what I'm going to call hardcore homeless. It is mostly men. There certainly are women, but if I had to really give you a number, it would probably be 60% male, 40% female. Children, we may go 6 months at a time without seeing a child. So that part of the demographics that we used to see is different. Certainly, we serve a much smaller group of people because we're only open one night a week. But to give you some numbers, our Tuesday dinners of this past year amounted to 8,940 different meals that we provided. As Georgine said, there wasn't really anything going on the weekends in Greater Cincinnati. And we were in a position because we're very fortunate that we get donated food, but we also have backing from the congregation here at the cathedral. So we have a budget and we're able to use that budget, especially when we began getting donated food, to expand our program. About a year ago, a little over a year ago now, we expanded to a Saturday morning, what we call blessing bag program. And what the blessing bags are doing is we are putting together breakfast, so a cereal, a shelf-stable milk. We're putting together lunch that is primarily provided by Georgine's organization, Our Daily Bread. They provide us with sandwiches. They provide us with microwavable frozen meals because some of our guests do have the ability to microwave. And that, I believe, has been a big help on Saturday mornings. After we began the program here at the cathedral, the dean of the cathedral was talking to us and was discussing how we might expand even further into a mobile program. So we looked at it, we looked at the numbers, and we realized that we were able to, in fact, expand the program again with Georgine's help, getting extra sandwiches, microwavable meals. So we now provide, and we started this at the end of the year, we now provide 2 other churches in Greater Cincinnati, Church of the Advent in Walnut Hills and Grace Church in College Hill. We provide them with 75 meals every week. So we've increased our numbers. We're now doing about 1,600 blessing bags out the door here during the past year, and about 1,000 so far this year of the mobile meals. That's where we see our largest increase, is those meals going out. And I think one of the reasons that we see more food going out to, I'm going to call it the inner suburbs of Cincinnati, is because we're located in the central business district. There are very few places for the homeless to congregate. Certainly they do. There are some camps on the Ohio River. There are some camps out in the West End. But that means people having to walk into downtown on a weekend to get a meal. Some years back, and it was just before the COVID pandemic, the city and Hamilton County began a program of discouraging campsites within the city limits. So they were pushing people, especially out of the central business district, and to a certain extent out of over the Rhine. That's a policy that is still in effect. So it has had an effect on our numbers at 5,000 club. Certainly what we do couldn't be done without the support of groups like Our Daily Bread. We've been very fortunate indeed to have somebody like Our Daily Bread help us out so that we can expand the programs that we offer here. We're looking at some other ways to expand our programs in the future. There are certainly some concerns we have about the future when it comes to many of the things that go into our blessing bags. Those are items that we have to purchase, items such as shelf-stable milk, any shelf-stable product, so chips, cookies, snacks, anything like that, granola bars, water. Those generally are items that we have to purchase. Our budget right now allows us to do that, but we do see the possibility that there will be more inflation and that we will be impacted by that. So we're looking at ways that we can minimize those issues. We also expect to see an increase in numbers of our guests at both our Tuesday and our Saturday programs. And we've already been approached by the two partner congregations that we're working with in Walnut Hills and College Hill about their numbers increasing. So there's certainly that aspect that we're looking at also. But we think with some innovative ways of doing things that we're going to have to be looking at. We have approached some organizations, some companies out there. Alpine Valley Water has been very generous. They have provided us on multiple occasions with pallet loads of water at no charge, which has certainly helped us in many cases because we do provide bottled water with every blessing bag that goes out. So there's a number of different ways that we're looking at things. Unfortunately, the shelf-stable product is the least available product for donation. The other thing that we do, and Georgine touched on it just briefly, is food rescue. We don't do the actual food rescue, but we do make sure that nothing that we have goes to waste. So whenever we have anything left over, we donate that further down the line. As a matter of fact, on our Tuesday evening dinners, if we have a hotel pan size of something that's left over, our Daily Bread has that the very next day. So this past week, we had, I think it was baked chicken and some pork sausages that were left over. We were able to get up to our Daily Bread to help them mitigate their costs and be able to serve more people. So that's a brief overview of what the 5,000 Club is and what it does. And I guess I'll turn it back over to.
Well, Georgine, if you'll go up, we can do questions.
Oh,
And I've
you're
got
gonna have
one
questions?
started. That is, notice that it's now our Daily Bread Soup Kitchen and Community Center. What does that reflect?
I just asked why our name is now Our Daily Bread Soup Kitchen and Social Center, and what that is reflecting, is people experiencing homelessness in shelter. Shelters don't let people stay there during the day. And so we are a safe place for people to gather, and we really put a big focus on community. The Surgeon General, I believe, last year declared loneliness a public epidemic, and they've done studies on the impact of loneliness on health. And people in extreme poverty, people experiencing homelessness, a lot of times will hide away for their own safety or to avoid police intervention. And so we are a place where people can gather, interact with each other. Like Christ Church, we have tables where people sit with each other to enjoy their meals. We've got bingo, we've got karaoke once a month, we've got movie day once a week. And so we just started to lift up the social center aspect of what we do, because people are able to, yes, eat a meal, but they can also stay there until 2 o'clock Monday through Thursday, and until noon on Fridays, and just hang out. And then also on a more basic level, it's a place for them to warm up, it's a place for them to cool off in the summertime, it's a place to use the restroom, it's a place to use the phone. And this side of COVID, with more people sleeping outside, we also have created a napping area where people can safely sleep, because they're not getting good sleep when they're sleeping out in their camp because of the discomfort of the weather or because of fear for their safety. So yeah, just really trying to, part of our strategic plan, we really looked at what was important to us, and we've always been very centered on our guests. And so we started adopting the platinum rule, which I was unfamiliar with, but what it is treat others as they want to be treated. And so we do a lot of interaction with our guests to find out what kind of services they want, what makes them feel comfortable, and we want everyone to just feel really comfortable and respected when they walk in our space.
You know, one of the things that we've also done at the cathedral is every Tuesday evening, instead of just having our dinner, we have folks from the Addiction Services Council that come in. We have a group of people from Cancer Justice Network that are there every week. We have folks from the Free Store Food Bank who are there to provide social worker things for our guests. We also have folks from Neighbor Hub, which is a housing organization here in Hamilton County, and also a health organization. So we have a number of different organizations that are backing us and partnering with us to provide services to our guests. And I think that's something that's important.
Rich, do you want to mention the street choir?
And thanks for bringing that up. The cathedral, I guess it was 2 years ago. I don't remember exactly what it was. The cathedral was approached by some folks about establishing what they were calling the Queen City Street Choir. Queen City Street Choir is basically a choir made up of folks from the street who come here every Sunday afternoon. There are people who put together concerts. There are pianists. They have access to some of the cathedral's musical instruments, and they have done a number of different concerts. I guess the numbers within Queen City Street Choir fluctuate somewhere between 50 and 100 people, depending upon what time of year it is. But one of the other things that they do is just prior to the rehearsal on Sunday afternoons, they provide a hot meal for members of the street choir. So it's another way that the cathedral, through its outreach, is attempting to help some of the folks in our neighborhoods are all of the guests that we have. It's a way for them to help those in need, especially those who have food insecurity, but also provide them with an activity such as the choir to help them enjoy life a little better.
Georgine, you want to pick out the things from the chat as your question?
There doesn't seem to be any questions on chat. It was people saying the.
Janet, the speaker.
Yeah, right. Andrew said hey to Rich.
Both of you did a terrific job describing your current services and the need for them and how they've grown. And what strikes me, of course, Georgine, you were director of the Homeless Coalition, the connection between homelessness and this food need, I guess it should be obvious to all of us in terms of that connection, but there's so many connections between people who are facing the need for either housing, food, or other issues. My question is, you know, you're both doing great work right now. As you look at the present and the potential future, what your concerns are and what your goals are in terms of the future. I mean, we've got some drastic actions taking place in Washington, D.C. with cuts in major calls for cuts and things like Medicaid, take a lot of money out of both housing and food. Education cuts that are being prescribed, all kinds of cuts that would affect local programs as well. Is that of concern to you all?
Oh, well, I think both of us do have concerns about that. Fortunately, or depending upon how you look at it, both our Daily Bread and the 5,000 Club, neither of us depend upon government money to do what we do. We're fortunate in that respect. That doesn't mean we're not going to be affected by what's going on. We will be. I touched a little bit on costs. As I said, the cathedral congregation provides the 5,000 Club with a budget every year. We're very happy that that is able to take place. We do know that costs are going up. We've seen so far, some increases. Some have been substantial. Coffee, believe it or not, has gone up quite a bit. And there are some other things that are going up in price. And we expect that to continue based on a number of different things, not just typical inflation, but also because of the cuts that have taken place, and because of some of the other actions, the tariff actions. Many of I mentioned shelf-stable product. Many of the shelf-stable products that we have to purchase are made in countries that are being targeted right now with tariffs. Some come from China, some come from Mexico, and some come from other South American countries and also Canada. So we know that we're going to be impacted that way. We know that, or we believe that we will see an increase in our numbers, those needing help. I would like to see, and I think we have talked about this in the past, and I think the thing that we're going to be looking at is how we can get more food out to people in other areas. Quite honestly, I think here, the people coming here to the cathedral, just because of the lack of places for low-income people to be in central business district, and today across the river in Covington and Newport, they are seeing much of the same thing when it comes to increase in housing prices in their central urban areas. So we're seeing more people further out in places like Price Hill, Westwood. We have guests that we know come from as far away as Hartwell, which I believe is the northernmost neighborhood in Cincinnati. We see people that are coming from Reading, outside the city of Cincinnati. So we know that people are coming from further distances in to find a meal in the central business district because they know we're here. So I think to answer your question, yes, we're looking at ways we can expand what we're doing to get more food out. Will that include partnering? Certainly, and it will include partnering with other churches or other service organizations. When do I see that happening? That I can't really give you a good answer to. I would hope it would be this year.
And I would say I'm extremely concerned about what they're gonna do with HUD. I got really concerned when there was a quote from Elon Musk calling homeless people dead-eyed zombies. And when I started hearing that dehumanizing language, I realized that there's a lack of empathy there, and there is a sense of, yeah, like I said, dehumanization, which also adds to a lot of anxiety for people experiencing homelessness. A lot of shame might make them more fearful of getting assistance. And then they were talking about sort of massive cuts to the housing programs that a lot of our guests rely on to get out of homelessness. And so I think we can, if they start going after the HUD budget, which was already not sufficient to begin with, I think we can definitely count on an increase of people. And then we also might see an increase of people, like I said, 30% of our guests are housed. Those are people who rely on us for that extra income boost to make it through the month, all the sort of juggling that we talk about doing. So if we see prescription prices going up, we might see more people coming to our daily bread to get a meal because they need that extra money for their prescriptions or, you know, so yeah, I think anytime the economy is in flux or is scary like it is right now, or sort of the programs that we've sort of are bedrock of our system, then I think, yeah, potentially.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's definitely an issue. To your point, before, there are so many segments of this overall problem that are all linked together. It is housing, it is food insecurity, but it also includes things like prescription drug costs. It includes things like education. There's so much that's involved in it. You have to, I believe, you have to look at this holistically, how you can fix the overall problem. Jobs are another problem or another issue. I just noticed that we do have a couple of questions on here. Chuck Schneider said, is the social engagement as important as the actual meals? I believe so.
Yeah.
I think that is a big part of why people come to both of our soup kitchens. Because quite frankly, to what Georgine said, they come, they have their meal, but then they stay until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or till noon on Fridays. They come here on Tuesday evenings, and during the warmer months, during the summer, many of our guests go and sit down outside in Sycamore Commons where we have tables and chairs set up. And they'll sit there and talk to friends, have their meal for 2 hours. They may be there when we're shut down and everybody, all of our volunteers have gone home. And that's something else, and I should have mentioned this earlier, Georgine did. We couldn't do what we do without a fantastic group of volunteers that we have. We are very, very fortunate, very blessed to have, I believe, one of the, if not the largest group of volunteers at the cathedral. We have about 40 volunteers that are regular volunteers, folks that are there every week, every other week. And then we have another list of volunteers that are on an as needed basis. We probably have another 10 or 15 of that group. So we're very, very fortunate and couldn't do what we do without our volunteers.
I would agree on the social engagement is just as important. One of the things I always like to say is we've all and we've all eaten meals together and we know which ones taste better. Eating is such a very human exercise. And it just, it matters. The attitude matters. I mean, you hear about places that serve food that maybe don't treat people right, and they would rather go hungry than not get treated right. So I think that social aspect is incredibly important. And then the follow-up question that Chuck had was, during the warmer months, would partnering with the city county parks be considered a viable option? I think our guests spend a lot of time in parks as is, but and sorry, this is not answering your question, but the library is one of our strongest partners. They are incredible. They are Cincinnati's largest day center. And it's not just for adults. It's not just for people experiencing homelessness. It's for kids, teenagers, after school programs. So I just wanted to do a shout out to the library if you're so inclined, their funding is in danger of being cut, so call your representatives. But I think people don't often consider how big of a role they play for people who don't have a safe community space to be in. It's one of the few remaining public community spaces along with the parks, so.
And I can, speak to the parks. On Tuesday evenings, we have a volunteer here at the church who takes meals that we provide on Tuesday evening out to one of the local parks. I'm not going to mention which park it is because there is some controversy surrounding that, as there are with homeless people living in parks everywhere. We have seen neighborhood groups for and against folks living in parks, but it's a fact of life. It is out there. So yes, we do try to engage with folks who are camping out in some of the different parks. And I should mention also, one of our security folks here at the cathedral regularly, he's a former police officer, regularly takes meals to people that he knows that are living on the river, in camps down by the river, and we'll prepare him meals to take to them. So yeah, there are things going on. Is it something that we could consider for a viable expansion? I don't know. I don't know about that.
And I just wanted to add in too, that there are 4 different groups who provide meals, I think on Saturdays or Sundays, I can't remember, in the evening at Hyatt Park. And the thing with working with the parks, there are kind of like parachute in churches from the suburbs that'll suddenly like drop into a park, serve a bunch of food, and the pushback we get from the parks with that is they leave litter behind, they leave food behind, they're maybe not distributing the food in an ethical kind of way. People are feeling a sense of scarcity and competition, and if it's not done well, it can be a really ugly scene. The Hyatt Park people are doing it right. They're doing an excellent job. It's a different group. They take turns with it. They clean up after themselves. I know they're respectful to the people they're serving. So the parks, it's like, yes, that's a great staging area for this sort of service. But again, it has to just be done with so much thought in mind of how, like, if you go in and I've got 20 servings of chicken, who wants it first? You're gonna create a panic, you're gonna create an unnecessary anxiety. So it's just making sure you have enough and that you're doing it right and that you're cleaning up after yourself and getting your permits. The parks are fine welcoming you. If they know you're coming, they don't love the groups that just kind of parachute in, bounce after they drop off cans of food.
Yeah, and there's actually, there are some churches and some community organizations that do it very well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's one, it's a suburban church. It's actually over in Florence, Kentucky, that comes over here to downtown. They work with the city of Cincinnati. They set up meals down on 3rd Street. And they do a very good job. They make sure they clean up afterwards. And then there are others, to Georgine's point, that may not put as much thought into it. I know one of the other organizations that I mentioned early on, the St. Anthony Center at St. Francis Church up in over the Rhine, they had some issues where churches were coming in from outside the area and just basically dropping food on their front door, and people were causing some issues, and that caused the city to have some pushback. So as long as it's done thoughtfully, and working with the city officials, it can be a benefit. And I won't, and back to that question, it's not just the warm months, believe it or not. We provide meals to this one particular park year round. So there are people living in the parks all year round, and through the coldest part of the winter, this past winter, we were providing meals.
And I think something that's the county has a waste diversion department that's incredible. And one of their whole focuses is on food waste prevention. And they've started working with the health department and the rec centers to have free fridges at the rec centers that we can do the rescue food casserole. We try to do an all-in-one kind of frozen casserole meal. And other agencies do as well. So kind of looking as people are spreading out through the community, looking at places that have someplace in every neighborhood, libraries, rec centers, Episcopal churches, like places that are scattered and have these bases to, you know, maybe you're not serving 600 people, but you're serving 30 people who really need it, and using that. And parks, I think of as kind of similar, is they're everywhere in their sort of public or semi-public space, or they're willing to do this for people in their community. So yeah, I think, thank you. That was a very good question. I was stumped at first and I was like, oh, wait, no, yeah. That's a great question.
Do we have any more?
I don't think so.
I have a question. So you've got other churches doing this. You have other community organizations doing this. What do you figure your slice of the pie is of the whole soup kitchen world in Cincinnati?
Well, I don't want to speak for Georgine, but theirs is the largest soup kitchen in Greater Cincinnati. I don't know what that percentage is. She might be able to tell you. We're such a tiny portion of it. To give you an idea, there are, besides, I mentioned the church out in Florence, Kentucky that brings food down. They actually bring food up on Tuesdays, the same night that we're in operation. We work at different times. So we get, there's some crossover, obviously. But it's not everybody from not all of our guests go down to that particular one. But there are also soup kitchens in Northern Kentucky, and I'm talking specifically about soup kitchens that are in walking distance to the central business district. There's one right over in Newport, nowhere near as large as our Daily Bread, but they serve 5 days a week. And they serve in the evenings also. So there are other soup kitchens, but again, I think the 5,000 Club, while we serve a cross section of the food insecure population, it is a very small population, or a very small cross section of that population.
And that's one of the challenges that, I mean, our Daily Bread, we're a permanent space, we've been there for forever, you know, we do what we do. But I think a lot of like the Pyatt Park people, the pop-ups, the churches we don't even know about that are seeing a need. And I think the more we're looking at it, the more smaller is better. We were looking at, we want to rescue more food and get more food into the community. We didn't want to be our Daily Bread. We're going to have, you know, franchises everywhere. It was more like, let's find places that already have a really solid relationship with the people in their community and help them offset their food costs. And we don't want to, again, back to that social aspect of food, we don't want to come in and we're the only ones who know how to do this. We just want to be like, we'll give you the food and then serve it well. We don't care if it's 20 people. We don't care if it's 1,000 people, you know, we just want you to be serving it well.
And I think along with that, two churches that we're working with, the reason we wanted to work with them is because they're both very small churches. They serve a neighborhood, not the central business district. So you have Advent and Walnut Hills that is right in the middle of the residential neighborhood, as is Grace Church in College Hill. Grace Church is literally across the street from Aiken High School. And they already have a program set up for students, an after-school program. They've converted their undercroft space or their basement space into a study area that students can go to after school. They can get snacks, They can study. They're in a safe place because maybe their parents are working and they'd be latchkey kids otherwise. There's not that opportunity for that population of students to get into trouble because they're in a safe place. So we're working with them, and much of what we're doing with our mobile program through Grace goes to the kids at Aiken High School. Similarly, Advent over in Walnut Hills, they actually have an outside pantry. It's in the front of their church. It is a closet that they have built that people can come up to, open the door. There is food, shelf-stable food that is there. They can grab what they need. Might be 2 cans of soup. It might be, whatever shelf-stable product that they can get out of there. They also have a refrigerator and freezer outside that is taken care of by the soup. They bring soup down in quart containers, put it in the refrigerator or the freezer. People can come up, grab things out of that. That's where a lot of our mobile bags go to, is that refrigerator. Because we provide them with not just shelf-stable, but also sandwiches or the frozen meals.
Ed's creeping up on.
Yeah, I think that.
The owl finally picked you up.
I want to thank both of our speakers and just point out that this is such a growing, we just need more resources to figure out how to do it. I wonder if there's a future for more coordination, but there still needs to be an underlying base from our governments to keep us going on this. So, everybody, thank you, thank our speakers. Scared me to death those times. Thank you all. And we have unanswered questions. We'll try to get to those and send a note out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.